Hey everybody, John Post here with RSR Realtors. About 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm getting ready to wrap up my day. I just had a first-time homebuyer seminar here at the office, and it went pretty well. Got a pretty good turnout, had some good questions asked, and I passed this report out. You can get a copy if you want. It's 9 buyer traps that first-time homebuyers run into and how to avoid them. So if you want a copy of that, let me know. But this video here is going to be a little bit longer than you're used to because I have a special guest, okay? It's Beth Kempf of Community Cares. She's the one that I'm always talking about with the organization that I promote, Community Cares of Carlisle. They help the entire homeless population in Cumberland County, okay? So I will turn it over to her. And if you have any questions for me, as always, just shoot me a text or give me a call. And I'll put my website in the description. But without further ado, here's Beth. Hey everybody, I'm sitting here with Beth Kempf of Community Cares in Carlisle. And I just thought I'd bring her by because I'm always mentioning her organization in my videos. So I thought I'd bring her by firsthand so you can meet her and see what she does. And so I'm going to ask her a few questions so you can get an idea of what she's about and what she does for the homeless population in Cumberland County. So Beth, thanks for joining me.
Yes, thank you, John. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here and talking to your audience, your clients. So it's wonderful to be here.
It's good to have you. Yeah, well, so we'll get going here now. Could you just kind of give me a rundown? I know what it is, but could you tell me and the audience what Community Cares is and what you do?
Yes. Community Cares, we are, first and foremost, we're an emergency shelter. We began in 2004 in the town of Carlisle, the county seat, because there were, at that time, a few visible people sleeping on business stoops and courtyards of the church. And so a local church opened their doors and started to shelter them for the winter months, and really quickly became apparent that what we were able to see in the community was only a small portion of what the crisis of homelessness really existed. And within 2 years, it transitioned from a emergency winter shelter and became a long-term daily yearly shelter. But we continue today in 2020. We continue today partnering with those same churches. We partner with 14 different faith-based services, as well as the American Legion in Carlisle. We go out as far as Plainfield and Bowling Springs and Mount Holly and all over the place. And we shelter anyone and everyone that comes. And as the emergency shelter for Cumberland County, and being the county seat, it's a lot easier when someone's experiencing homelessness to come into Cumberland County, into Carlisle, and begin to work their way out of that circumstance. So that's what we started out as, that's where we began, and that's really the heart and soul of who we are, but that's not all of who we are.
Yeah. Now, I know that you're a nonprofit, correct?
Correct.
So what kind of, besides monetary donations, money, what can somebody else do for you if you need something, maybe like, I don't know, like pillows or socks? Like, what do you mainly need? Like, what do you really?
Yeah. So the number one thing, I just saw it on a commercial. Socks are definitely needed, particularly for people that are sleeping what they say rough, like sleeping out on the street, maybe sleeping in their car. But socks are not the number one thing that shelters often need. Mm-hmm. We need them. It's usually undergarments. So we shelter men, women, and children. And every day we have people walk through our doors, and oftentimes with whatever the situation brought them to our door, a lot of times they're coming with solely the clothes on their back. And so we take clothing donations all the time so that we can put it out there for our residents to go through. And then we partner with Community Aid, and we have a couple bins in the area, and we will redonate through Community Aid. Community Aid will then redonate finances back to us, and also quarterly give us Community Aid cards that we can give to people. So clothing, new undergarments, t-shirts, and shoes and things like that all the time. I tell people, anything you need to keep your house running, we need to keep the shelter running. We need to keep it clean. We need laundry detergent. We need blankets, twin size and up, sheets, twin size and up. We don't overly request pillows. It's just a situation that we tell people to do that on their own if they want a pillow, and launder that on their own. We try to limit the amount of material that we have there, so to limit the spread of any kind of germs and different things like that. But people donate food. We have a kitchen there. They can prepare their own meals. Some people will come in and actually donate a meal. Maybe they'll make the meal, and come in and serve it, or they would just have sandwiches and they'd bring them over. But really, as far as being involved in our shelter, being involved in what we're doing in Cumberland County with those experiencing homelessness, the sky's the limit. And I always say people are limited solely by their own imagination. If you have a skill, if you feel like you have a certain gifting and it might be something you think would be great for someone to learn, come and talk with us. We always find room for something new to happen.
Well, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Now, I think you went over this, but like, because me personally, I'm sure most of the viewers here, they hear about homeless population in Harrisburg, not necessarily Cumberland County.
Correct.
Can you give me some insight on what the homeless population is in Cumberland County and the type of people that you see coming through, whether it be someone, maybe their house burnt down, maybe they're just hitting hard times. Like, what can you tell me about some of the people that you've met and helped turn around?
Yeah, most definitely. We part of when I said that shelter is the number one thing that we do, that's not all that we do. We have this past year incorporated what we call outreach into our program, and literally we travel the entire county. And one of the big things that we're working on is trying to build support for prevention, homeless prevention. And so many people are 1-2 paychecks away from not being able to make their next bill, not being able to make their next thing, and couple that with not having any other person to fall back on. We meet people all the time. An example we had of a family, the husband worked 20 years, injured his back, and was waiting to see if workman's comp was going to come through, had a wife and 2 children, a daughter with special needs. And while they're going through that circumstance, their septic system failed, and the county condemned their property, and they had to leave. They had nowhere else to go. They had no kind of insurance. There was no support for them. And it really took quite a long time to untangle everything for them. And that's what we do. We jump in, we're like, okay, where's the first thing we can start? But if we can, and when we can, we like to get in and connect with them right away before they're evicted. So we encourage people to call 211, to call community cares, to call our outreach number once they get an eviction letter. So we like to see if there's some way we can either help transition them more quickly into another place, or if we can work with the landlord and see how we can prevent the eviction altogether. But many people will come to us where they have experienced, we had a woman come to us, and she was just a remarkable breath of fresh air, but she went through something pretty traumatic, married her whole married career. It was, determined that she would be home, she'd raise the kids, and the husband liked it that way, and, she took care of the house. And their two daughters went off to college, and when they did that, Dad decided that he wanted a divorce and instantly put her out of the house, and she had nowhere to go. She had no situation, she hadn't worked in many years, and so that was really a big shock for her, and she really humbled herself to come to the shelter. And I know that it's really hard for them, but we're really proud of how quickly we can get in and help them assess where they're at. And so she, in a really quick time, was able to get employed, afford a car, and move out into her own apartment, and actually became a supervisor in the new job that she had because she was so diligent in her work. But we see people all the time come to us with tragic things. We've had a family of 5 who've been sleeping outdoors for over a week, not having clothing and not having money for food, and just some decisions and some relationship things that fell apart. They were living with people that kicked them out. They really couldn't quite make it on their own, and they just needed some support. They didn't have anyone to kind of remind them that, like, listen, we'll start here and we'll go here. And for some people, Cumberland County, we have our housing authority, and there are a significant number of people that we work with who are eligible for that, but it's an 18-month process, which is not too terrible, but when you're homeless, it's pretty long, and that's to subsidize their housing costs, because living in Cumberland County, it is definitely pretty expensive, and if you're working a $12 an hour job, it's difficult to be able to make ends meet if you have a wife and your 3 kids and you're trying to make it that way. And so to be able to get stabilized in order to even have plans for a future, and so we try really hard to partner with our agencies for that. local agencies with that. But we, this couple, coming to us, we'll start with things at the very basic, like getting their birth certificates. You cannot get onto the housing list without a birth certificate. So we'll start unraveling that. And thankfully, Governor Wolf just this past year passed that birth certificates are free for Pennsylvanians that are experiencing homelessness. So that has helped us on our costs and a little bit of money. Get their birth certificates, get them signed up for the housing, get their IDs, and make sure they have their social security cards, and start working with our partner employers to start helping them get on their feet. And so right away, the first couple days, we're working on a strategy and a plan, and we try and task it at a 30-day measure, like what are we gonna get done in 30 days? Our goal is to see you housed in 30 days. Reality, it takes a little longer for a lot of people, but we really make that our goal.
That's awesome. So how does somebody get a hold of you? Do they call you directly, or do they?
Yes, there's several things. So if you are experiencing homelessness yourself, you know someone it is, you can encourage them to contact 211 Contact Helpline, run by the United Way of Pennsylvania. That's not all that they do, but that's one thing that they do. And you would complete a vulnerability assessment. But each county is required to have a walk-in site, what they call an access site for that, because the assessment is pretty involved. It's very personal. The goal of that assessment is to get you kind of assessed at a certain number, and then those that are experiencing homelessness are eligible for to be on a list called Homelessness and Special Need Housing List, which is separate solely for people experiencing homelessness. You get that completed. That's one avenue, and one way our community, our county, our agencies are trying to partner together to make that homelessness and special needs housing more available for people, so that shelter or street living is as limited as possible. So we really have a great partnership in our community. We work well together. So then they can also, if you are living in a hotel, let's say in New Cumberland, and you don't have a card, you can call 211, but you really like some support, you can contact our outreach. We call it Cumberland Street Reach, and you would call that number 717-448-8850. I almost forgot the number. And so you would
put it up on the screen for me.
Good. And so you would contact that number, and our case manager would come and set up a meet with people. We would do the assessment with them, and we'd start to walk with them case management wise right from where they're at. And so our goal is to make access to housing supports as quick as possible. So we travel through we'll come to wherever you are, from New Cumberland to Shippensburg and everywhere in between. And if you're a business, or if you have seen someone and you think they might be living in their car, you think I think they're parking in our parking lot, I'm not sure. One of the biggest things that happen with people experiencing homelessness is they can get trespassing charges, which end up being felony charges, even if they were just sleeping on your property. And it's not really the heart of most people to want to see anyone criminalized for that, and to be criminalized for that. So we encourage people to give us a call. We can't necessarily come that second, but if we have a description and understanding, we'll make every chance we can to make some sort of soft contact with them to see if they want some support and to transition from that situation. Our intention is to be a support for our entire community. When you see people alongside of the road, or sleeping on a stoop, or maybe sleeping in their car, or you hear of a distressing circumstance of a mom with a child that's going to lose their home, we all feel helpless. We all feel like we should be doing something, and we're not always sure what to do. And that's what we're here for. We're here to support the community as we support those who live in our community. So we're not a standalone. We work with many agencies, and we're also not a standalone because we work with our community, because each and every one of us have a valuable role to play in the lives of those around us. And so for me, I love that we're community cares, because we believe that we get to represent and partner with a community that genuinely cares.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Beth, I can tell you're really passionate about what you do. And I thank you again for coming by. So guys, you're seeing it firsthand. This is who I'm helping out. I'm trying to donate part of my income to community cares. This is where it's going. So she really appreciates it. If you have any questions, I'll put the number up and the link in the description as well. So if you want to make a donation, monetary or material, whatever they need, any help is appreciated. So thank you guys again. Give me a shout if you need any help. Again, I'm John Post with RSR Realtors, and this is Beth Kempf with
Hello, thank you so much.
Community Cares Carlisle. And thanks again for your time, and I'll see you next time.